Linda said, we are in the business of helping women increase their revenues. And revenue, obviously, I mean, not to state the obvious, but it's important for several reasons. One is it is the absolute key to having greater impact, so that you can touch more people and bring your genius to more people. It also allows you to get more support, so you are not doing it all on your own. I think we all know what that feels like, and it allows us to invest in the business for greater growth. But most importantly, it provides us financial freedom, and every single one of us deserves financial freedom. And it means different things to different people. So Linda and I, in putting together our program, did a lot of research, which included interviewing over 100 women entrepreneurs. And they all define financial freedom differently, right? Some, it may be being able to invest in their children's education. Others, it might be going on vacations. Others, it may be having the spa day once a month. And for many, it's about not worrying. So in the next hour, we have a very ambitious schedule here. We are going to set or reset revenue goals for 2024. We are going to identify mindset challenges and practices. We are going to review the know-how needed to grow a business and discuss 3 levers for revenue generation. And then at the end, I'm going to reserve about 5 minutes to provide an overview of our Precision Accelerator. And for those of you who are not interested, you can absolutely drop off at that time. So as Linda said, we're asking you, thank you so much for having your cameras on. Our goal is for you to walk away today with real value. And in fact, I even have a loftier goal. I would love that, 6 weeks from now or 6 months or a year from now, you look back at this hour and you say, you know what, that really had an impact on our business. But obviously you can't do it alone. I need you to be fully with me as we go through this. As Linda said, it's a workshop, so you'll need a pen and paper, and let's dig into this and make that happen. So the harsh reality is that 88% of women who start a business will never make it to $100,000. And $100,000 just is not enough in today's world. So I know what this is like. I have been an entrepreneur for a lot of years now, over 30 years. I started my career at Chase Manhattan Bank. I was there for 11 years. My last role there was Chief Marketing Officer in the global bank. I was itching to get out and start my own practice. I did that. And I was an independent contractor. And then I wanted to start Precision Sales Coaching, which was back in 2007. And I spent the first 6 months smiling and dialing. I had a strategy of actually writing handwritten postcards to what I considered to be my ideal client at the time, mailing them out, asking them to take a call. And actually it was a pretty strategy, but it took me about 6 months before I hit it. So I kept thinking, when will somebody say yes? Well, hallelujah, about 9 months into it, Greenwich Capital, which is now part of RBS, said yes. And I was able to close a close to $100,000 contract. So business is off to a good start. All is good. Next year, I think I got it up to 175,000. And then you know what's coming if you're looking at the years down here. 2008 hits and I lost a lot of business and I almost didn't make it. And for me, that was a very difficult time in my life. There was a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of trying to figure out, what I was going to do. And I finally came to the conclusion that I needed to go back to corporate America, which is the last thing I wanted to do. I remember very clearly a conversation that I had. It was a friend of a friend. She was a headhunter. She was doing me a favor because she was about to go on vacation. And I talked to her and she said to me, Nadine, you are unemployable. And I said, what are you talking about? And she said, well, you've been out of the workforce for too long. And I said, I haven't been out of the workforce. I've had a consulting practice. And she said, it doesn't matter. Recruiters are going to look at that time as you being a stay-at-home mom. I mean, can you believe it? Think about that. I was devastated. So the good news, there's a positive side to everything, was that it motivated me in a big way. And blood, sweat, and tears, I built my little business and I got it up to about 200,000 in 2010, and then hit the 250 mark. And once I did that, everything became easier. Everything became easier. And it was easy for me now to get to a 7-figure business, which was my goal. So what I learned in that experience is that you really need a strong foundation for business. And I didn't know what I didn't know. I knew, what I learned, again, the hard way, is I needed a strategy to attract new clients. I needed a safety net to weather forces outside of my control, like moratoriums on consultants, which happened, or my 2 clients merging, or my client being fired, right, in the middle of a contract. And certainly a pandemic. So there are many, many forces, as we all know, outside of our control, and we need to have systems in place for that. But one of the big things I learned is life is so much better above 250,000. When you've got that, it seems to be kind of a magical place there. So what I'm going to ask you to all do right now is take out that pen and paper, and I want you to write down your revenue goal. And just give me a thumbs up when you got it. And this is your revenue goal for 2024, your annual revenue goal. Great. Okay, I got a thumbs up there. All right. So what I want you to do is, if it is 5 figures, I want you to put the number 2 in front of it. And if it is 6 figures, but it starts with the number 1, I want you to make that a number 2. And I'll tell you why. I mean, I've already said it, but under $200,000 is a heavy and hard place to be. So we want to make sure that we are making that time that we spend there as small as possible. We want to accelerate from where you are now. If you're not at 200, we want to accelerate that. Many of you, I'm sure, are well over 200, which is terrific, and you should be very proud of that. Everything we're going to talk about today will help you to get to the next level. And as you know, if you are at 2, 3, 4, 500,000, there are plateaus that we always need to be wrestling against. So under 200, again, you're doing it all. You have limited small growth. You are worried and you are missing out. I know when I think back at that difficult time in my business, I was missing out with time with my husband and my boys because I was working so hard and doing it all. And we don't want that for you. So now what I want you to do is, you've got, for some of you, for everybody, it's going to be 2 or bigger, right? For everybody, it's going to be 6 figures or 7 figures. That's great. You can work on that number to refine it, what you want it to be. But now I want you to really sit with the number before you, right? And I want you to think about 2 questions. The first is, I'd love you to jot down how your life and business will be different when you achieve this revenue goal. What are some of the things that are going to be different for you? And I'll give you a few minutes to jot that down. And anybody who wants to use the chat, we would love to hear what you have.
Hillary is sharing that the lulls aren't so empty.
I love that. The lulls aren't so empty, right?
Great sentence.
Yes. That would feel good. Consistent, right? Consistency. What else?
Nothing else. Let's see, Brooke, I'd be traveling all the time, exclamation point.
Nice.
I love that idea.
Sue says the ability to be selective about clients and do the work that's truly mine to do. Absolutely. And with the clients that you love to do it for,
It's
right?
so important, Sue, right? Because you've got that, you're wrestling with, I need to bring in the money, but this is not necessarily an ideal fit, which is not an ideal place to be.
Yeah.
Being selective is great. Terrific. Okay,
And
now
just a few more. Charmaine is like more
Yep.
time with my family and travel to see my friends. Yes, we hear that often, right?
yes.
Marjorie says my son won't have a student loan. Wouldn't that be amazing? What a great gift. Rosie, freedom of choice to do what I want. I would also travel, right? So weekend. And Jessica, expand my giving back strategy. Oh, love that. Okay.
Love that. And I got to say, I got the chills a little bit about the student loan piece. So that feels really, really good. Now I want you to think about the emotions that you feel when you think about committing to that revenue goal. And so think about it, some of those emotions are probably going to be very positive, but there might be some feeling that might be a little bit negative. So explore both of those sides and just jot some things down there. And again, feel free to put it in the chat.
We have some folks coming in. Charmaine, determination and anxiety. Two sides of a coin, right?
I'm on a webinar, but
we have Maria saying
I'm
fear,
working.
excitement, and joyful anticipation. Jessica is coming in with empowered and doubt, right? Marjorie, without fear, just determination.
Are you still hungry?
We have some, Bunny, you might want to put yourself on mute. Thank you. I think there's a little one there who's hungry.
I'd love it. No fear, just determination. So when Linda and I did our interviews, we heard a lot of fear to committing to revenue goals. And so just to talk about that for a second here, some women are fearful because they're afraid that they won't reach the goal, which is kind of crazy when you think about it, right? Because you're the only one judging yourself. And the only anecdote to that would be creating a goal that is like so achievable that it's not really challenging you. And we've certainly all heard the reach for what happened to my slide there? Reach for the moon and you'll get to the stars. So you're more likely to generate more revenue when you have a larger revenue goal. That we've also heard a little bit of, I'm fearful that if I have this revenue goal, it's going to be really, really hard. Well, and require a lot of work. Well, I think none of us would be entrepreneurs if we didn't understand that it takes a lot of work, right? But again, it's a lot harder. You can make it, there's an easy route and there's a hard route. And so if we can accelerate our growth, everything becomes easier. And I love this quote, right? Feel the fear and do it anywhere, anyway, just as, who was it that just said about forget the fear and just be determined? That is a great way of looking at it. And every one of us have had experiences where we faced our fear and we are glad that we did it. So, so now next thing I want you to do is rate your level of confidence for achieving that revenue goal. So 1 being, that'll never happen. And 10 being, oh my God, a piece of cake. So give yourself a rating on where you are there.
And if you also want to share it in the chat, we have 1 7. Ooh, a bunch of 7s coming in. We have a row of 7s.
A row of 7s. Okay, let's see if we can get those higher up on the scale.
4 and we've got a 6.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. So there are 2 pieces when we think about being able to achieve the goals. One is mindset and the other is know-how. So mindset, how you think about your business, has an enormous impact on your business. And I know you know this. Many of you put it, in fact, Katie and Rosie both put it in Charlemagne in your registration, that, mindset is an important part of business. And then there's the other side, which is the know-how. Do you know how to build the business? So we're going to talk about both of these. So mindset, things like lack of confidence and thinking too small, the famous imposter syndrome, which is what Katie mentioned, shiny object syndrome. That is, you're going down one path and then you get an idea and you leave that one and you go down the other, which might have to do with confidence and fear as well. Negative talk, a scarcity mindset. There are not enough clients out there, not enough money, limiting beliefs, and undervaluing ourselves, right? So those are the common mindset practices. And the problem is that, as we all know, those thoughts and beliefs actually impact our outcome. So we can actually measure your mindset by measuring your outcome. So if you're not happy where you are right now with your revenues, chances are there may be some mindset issues that you want to take a look at. So what I'd like you to do now is think about that confidence number that you gave yourself and jot down which of these are most contributing to that in terms of not allowing you to have more confidence. What do you think those are? And I'll give you a second here.
Thinking too small, limiting belief. Let's see what some other folks have to say. I'm glad to see that you're also writing them down. This is important. Thinking too small again, not knowing where to start. Scarcity mindset, imposter syndrome, and negative self-talk.
Not knowing where to start. Yep. Yeah, it's all right. So all of that contributes. It's something that we are fighting with all the time. Mindset is a practice. And I'm going to give you 3 things that I hope will help here, but really it's 4, because this is the first one. We have to acknowledge that as entrepreneurs, there are ups and downs and all arounds, right? And we can, 1 minute feel very excited because we just closed a client, and then something else happens and we lose that, or we lose our self-confidence because of a conversation we have. So it's something that we have to practice. And there are 3 mindset practices I want to share with you. The first is a reframe. And so that's very simply, if your mind is saying, it just feels unrealistic that I can build $1 million business or 500,000 or whatever that is for you, right? We want to reframe it to, women just like me have built $1 million businesses. They're doing it all the time. Another example might be meeting my revenue goal will just be too hard and require too much work. Where instead we can reframe it and say something like, it becomes easier as I increase my revenue. I can do this. Another one might be, nobody will pay $25,000 for my services or whatever it may be. Reframe it. My offer provides incredible value for my clients. And something that I do here is when I have any of that negative stuff going on, I specifically say cancel in my head, and that triggers me to reframe. So what we're going to do is give you in our follow-up package a little bit of homework. And we're going to give you a worksheet, and I'm going to suggest and strongly suggest, let me say, that you write out those limiting beliefs or however it shows up in your head, and then reframe it. And I suggest that you print it out and you put it somewhere where you can see it every day. And when you get triggered, right, cancel, you go right to that statement and you read that statement. Now, it might seem kind of, I don't know, like, will that work? I'm telling you, it works. It's retraining your brain. It is a practice. And this Dr. Rick Hansen, who is a neuropsychologist, I love this quote: the brain is like Velcro for negative experiences and Teflon for positive experiences. So we tend as human beings to focus on the negative and not the positive. So for this reason, another practice is celebrate one small win every day. We do this in our program all the time, and it's amazing because it does become a practice. A lot of our clients now are being very conscious of those little things, whether it could be, I ate the frog this morning. I didn't want to make a call and I made myself do it the first time in the morning. It doesn't have to be big. It can be little things, but celebrating those things can be very, very helpful for your mindset. And then finally, community. So the entrepreneurial journey can be a very, very lonely journey. And our recommendation is become a part of a community where you can support each other. It can help the mindset so much. When Linda and I developed our program, we knew it would be important. We had no idea how important it is. All of our clients will tell you that it has been incredibly important, particularly for their mindset in experiencing the program. Now let's move to know-how. Maybe she's born with it. Yeah, no, maybe she's not. Definitely not born with it. Nobody is born knowing how to build a business. And I'm saying this because Linda and I have a client who is an amazing woman. She is a PhD. She is a professor at a university. She's a AI specialist. She's incredible. When she joined the program, one of her big ahas was, she said, I felt so badly about myself for not knowing how to build a business. Well, why would you know it, right? So let's talk about what we're talking about here. So it's things like niching, and I think we all know the importance of niching. The challenge is it's hard to niche. It's hard from a mindset issue because you got the FOMO going on, and it's hard from just who should be my ideal client and what is the perfect fit there. Another thing is messaging, developing messaging that is really going to resonate with your ideal client and pull them in. Developing your offer to ensure that it is truly transformative so that you get the testimonials that will make building your business so much easier. Pricing, how to price, a big question. We're going to be talking a lot about that. Lead generation, having a lead generation strategy and where you should be focused. And then, of course, the selling skills, developing authority in your niche, and stepping into that role of CEO. And what does that look like? What does it look like? So whoever said it earlier, so that it's not a hobby, but it is in fact a business. So now take a look at this list, right? And what are your potential obstacles here? Where are your weaknesses in terms of how it relates on the know-how side? And jot some of those down. Okay, so hopefully we can help a little bit with some of this. We don't have a whole lot of time to do deep dives, but again, hope you can walk away with some tangible things to apply to your business. This is about 3 levers for revenue generation. So these are where you get the greatest impact. And in fact, price has the most direct impact on your bottom line. And unfortunately, women underprice themselves by 28% compared to their male counterparts offering the exact same service. So just think about that for a second. Think about if you added 28% to your revenue, what that would do, right? Right off the bat. So pricing is very complex. And I just want to bring you through, we have 5 lenses that we suggest that you take a look at when pricing an offer or a project. And the first lens is the base cost. And this is what how most coaches and consultants and marketers, this is how they would price their business. They think about, okay, what is my hourly rate? And they come up with that somehow. And then they think about how long it's going to take, and they do multiplication, and they've got a price, right? There it is. We want you to go further than that. We want you to think about the value from both a quantitative and a qualitative perspective. So what's the return on investment? And then what's the value that you're bringing? Are you saving time? Are you making things less complex? Are you taking worry out of the equation? Then the third lens is cost of inaction, and to think about, what if your client were to do nothing? What's the cost associated with that? Then think about alternatives that your clients have to solve the problem. And when I say alternatives, I mean to you or someone like you. What alternatives are there? And then finally, what would the competition charge? So let me really quickly, if you think about a divorce coach, right? Let's say their base cost would be, I don't know, $12,000. And this divorce coach specializes with healthcare professionals, so doctors. And she's got 2 doctors now who are thinking about hiring her. So she's got this base cost. She comes up with that. But when we think about divorce, what is the value of saving a marriage? I mean, you start to think like priceless, right? And then you can go to, what's the cost of inaction if this couple didn't do anything? What are the costs associated with that? And the obvious ones are legal fees, but there's cost of 2 houses and the child care and things like that. What alternatives do they have? Well, maybe a clergyman or a family member. Probably not a good idea, the family member, right? And then what would the competition charge? So what we're looking at here, and feel free to take a screenshot of this, and after the workshop, see if you can apply it. But what we're talking about here is that it is complex, and it needs to be looked at from a lot of different angles to ensure that you are valuing yourself appropriately, right? And you're not underpricing yourself. So that's the price. On lead gen, I mean, I don't know about you, but all of the platforms that we have, a lead generation can drive a woman to drink, right? As we're on these platforms and we're trying to comment and DM and post and all of that stuff, and you're like, is anyone out there? Right? Is anyone listening to me? Will there be a return on investment? So let me offer this to you, is that I think it's important when we think about lead generation to think about it from two perspectives. There are things that are short game activities. Those are the activities that are going to bring you the revenue quicker. There are long game activities, which are those things that you might want to start to invest in, right? But you're probably not going to see the return on investment for a while. So what do those look like? On the short game, it's things like asking for referrals, fastest way to get new business in the door. A referral program, right? Offering something to clients in exchange for referrals, networking, in-person events, and as well as online events where they get to know you, get to trust you, get to see you. Email marketing with a lead magnet. If you have a decent size, right, list, that won't work if you don't. Webinars, mastermind events and challenges, speaking engagement, great way to build credibility really quickly and attract clients in the door. Guest podcasts with an offer, if the podcast is a large enough audience, as well as affiliate programs and referral partnerships. The long game activities are more like the social media activity, right? The posting, the liking, the sharing, the posts, writing a newsletter, email marketing, which we strongly suggest to build your email list, lead magnets, right? Website optimization, starting a YouTube channel, authoring articles, writing a book, podcasting, or hosting a podcast, and PR. So lots of opportunities out there on both sides. There's probably, we could add and add and add to this list. The key is to focus, right? And to figure out what you want to do. And there are a couple of things to think about there. One is doing what is aligned with you, particularly on those long game activities. If you are, if you want to be a podcaster and you hate public engagement, that's not for you. Or, do a newsletter and you don't like to write, it's not for you. For me, you're never going to see me on TikTok doing a dance. So you've got to make sure that it is aligned with you. So here's a little something to think about. We would recommend that you focus 80% of your lead generation effort on short term and 20% on long term, and that basically everything that you do is aligned with you. So why don't you take 30 seconds here and just jot down what appeals to you, particularly on those the short game. All right. Now,
also doing that, there's one question that came in around the marketing. What is a large enough audience? If you say a decent size audience.
On the, what was that, offering the lead magnet? Right. Yes. Or I think I referred to the podcast.
Short-term, sending an email to your short-term audience. Is that with a lead?
It really depends on the quality of your list. If you have all ideal clients, it could be a list as small as 100 people, right? If you've got a mix of just kind of random people, a 500 person list isn't going to be enough. So it really depends on, I think, the quality of your audience or the email list. Okay, so sales. So this is the third lever, which is really about increasing your conversion rates, right? So you get the leads in, and the average conversion rate is 20%. If you were to increase it, I don't know where anybody is on this, right? But you're going to bring in more revenue. So a number of you, which is very consistent with the interviews that Linda and I did, talked about this feeling of being salesy, right? And we don't want to be, I think it was Julie who put it in her list. I don't want to be salesy. Yeah, nobody wants to be salesy. So let's redefine selling. What I mean by that is we all kind of grew up in this world of a very masculine approach to selling, which is not surprising because the approach was developed in the late 1800s by men, right? And then, of course, we have movies like this, Glenn Ross saying, always be closing, and this idea of push, push, push. Instead of always be closing, we like to be serving. We like to think about it as always be serving. Sales is actually a service. Sales is something that you do, is not something that you do to someone. It is something that you do for someone. It is in service of them. This is a really important piece of the mindset shift when you think about sales. Now, when we look at masculine energy, we think about things like logical and confident and assertive and strong and stable and goal-driven and structured, all good things, right? But it has its place. When we think about our feminine energy, it's intuitive and nurturing and collaborative and creative, receiving, allowing, and flow, right? So what we want to do, particularly in the sales conversation, is lead into our feminine energy. And the reason why we want to do that is it makes it a hell of a lot more comfortable for us and a hell of a lot more comfortable for our clients.
And if I can interject here, if anyone here is new to masculine and feminine energy, it doesn't matter how you identify. We all pull on both masculine and feminine energy throughout every interaction in our lives. So just wanted to put that out there.
Absolutely. So how this shows up is selling is a very nuanced skill. And, you know, we do workshops on selling that are like 3 days long. So it's hard to get into any of this stuff. Same thing with pricing and lead gen. But let me give you a little feel for it. So instead of, like, on the left here is kind of the traditional sales model. So instead of building rapport, it's developing connection. Instead of conducting a needs analysis, it's really developing a deep understanding of your client's situation. Instead of focusing solely on the problem and pain, it's also helping them talk about their aspiration and their vision. Instead of presenting a solution, it's collaborating on a solution. Instead of handling objections, it's assisting with a self-resolution. Instead of closing, right? I'm going to close this. It's detaching from the outcome. And instead of a framework, it's really about flow. So we have a client here, and this is very consistent with our clients. And if we can, I'm just going to play a little audio for you here on something that Erin said.
I had a call this morning with a discovery session with a client or a potential client. And I really thought about the conversation Linda and I had and kind of got myself in this mindset of, you're not in this to sell, right? You want this job most definitely. However, just be yourself and be present for the person in front of you. And I have to say, it went beautifully.
And she goes on, we cut it off for time, but she goes on to say that she closed it. But not only that, her client specifically said, you know, I had spoken with several other coaches, And the reason why I chose you is the way that it didn't feel like I was being pushed into something. You genuinely wanted to understand my needs and what was important. You genuinely wanted to make sure that we were a good fit together. So it's super powerful, and it's a matter of, just kind of shifting the way you think about sales, as well as developing skills, right, to do that. So we've talked about price and value, how important it is to think about it in more terms than just the base price. We talked about lead generation, being aligned with what you do and focusing 80% of your effort on short-term activities. And we've talked about sales, which is all about leaning into what we like to call the softer side of sales. All of this comes together in what we have called a revenue growth calculator. And we're going to send you a link, and we encourage you to fool around with this. And basically what it's going to ask you to do is put in your current revenue and what you want, what your revenue goal is. And then you can play around with the 3 levers around price, conversion rate, and the number of leads you generate. And what this does is it can be really motivating, because let's say you want to double your revenues. That can seem like a far-reaching goal. When you start fooling around with this, you're like, oh my God, I actually don't need to raise my price that much if I just increase my conversion and bring in a few more leads. And all of a sudden, it's becoming attainable for you. So we will send you that link. So I have 2 questions left for you. And the first is and I know we jammed a lot in here. What is your takeaway? What is your takeaway from today? And if you could put that in the chat, I would love it.
Charmaine is saying that mindset is a practice. And she has the second one, which is lean into your feminine energy for sales.
Nice.
Rosie is saying be more consistent. Grace, life is easier above 200,000. Yes. Petra, declare a higher revenue goal. Yes.
Nice.
Brooke, focus and consistency. Kristen, set a revenue goal and practice the mindset to achieve it. Let's see. Nancy, start networking, as I just recently moved to Timmins, brand new in town. Great idea. Adele, the goal of 200,000 is better than a goal of 150,000. Absolutely. And Marjorie says it's time to go for it. Focus on the end in mind.
It's time to go for it. I love that. So the next question I have for you is, what is your plan? What are you going to do to address the mindset issues? And some of that came out in your takeaway. What are you going to do to address your the possibly business know-how challenges? And I believe you've got 2 choices. You can do it on your own, or you can get help. So there's the slow and hard way, which I did for many, many years. And then there is the the easier and faster way. Don't you love these ants?
No.
So I know this can sound self-serving at the moment, but I honestly, we wouldn't be in this business if we didn't understand how important it was for women entrepreneurs to have a coach or join a program. We hope you would consider ours, but there are other options out there as well. My strong recommendation is just not to go this alone. Imagine a year from now, right, where you have reached that goal, that revenue goal that seemed like you couldn't make it before. Imagine having a really deliberate approach to your business and knowing that those clients are coming in, that you've got a system in place to make that happen. So you don't have the ebbs and flows. You know, imagine being able to get a facial once a month if that's your thing, or, you know, play tennis with your girlfriends if that's your thing, but having resources to help you. So we wish that for all of you. We honestly do. It is so important. And I think, you know, there are clearly so many women out there doing it. I love this. I mean, the words of Audrey Hepburn, right? Nothing is impossible. The word itself says, I'm possible. We know there are women out there making $1 million businesses all the time, and you can too. It is absolutely possible. And for those of you now who feel like you're full, you can sign off. For those of you who might be interested in learning about our program, we'd love you to stay on, and we'll tell you a little bit about it. So the first thing I want to say is it's not for everybody. It is for women who want your business to work today. Very anxious to get that to get that revenue goal going. You have a minimum revenue goal, obviously, of 200,000. You're willing to let go of what is not working. You're willing to take personal responsibility for your success. And very importantly, willing to be a supportive member of a community of like-minded women like you. As I said, community is really, really important to us.
And once again, we do invite men into the program.
Yes. And one of the, in fact, we have our first man joining in a husband and wife team, which is kind of fun, in January. So this is a visual of basically the content. And so it reads from right to left, and it begins with your mission. But there are 3 pillars. The first is all around sales strategy that we call Program Runway. The second is about sales skills, which we call Program Takeoff. And the third is sales growth and stepping into that role of CEO. So what's important here, the sales strategy, the foundation, we have women working with us who have been in business for a long time, some of them. And they hit revenue plateaus and they don't know why, like what's getting in the way. They find out exactly what it is in Program Runway, where we are really refining that niche, the offer, the pricing, the messaging, developing a lead generation strategy, and in the mindset, it looks like it's separate here. Mindset is throughout. I mean, it should just be an overlay. That second pillar is once we've got that foundational down, we go into what we call a 45-day cash flow plan, which is about getting the money in, focusing on those short-term activities, and then developing the skill set of the softer side of sales, those selling skills that are so important. And then the third is that sales growth. It's developing authority in your particular area. It's putting systems in place, reading data, and bringing on the team so that you can run your business as a business and not a hobby. We are going to brag here for a minute. This is brand new, off the press. We found out yesterday that we are a finalist for a very prestigious award out of the UK, which we are super excited about. So just wanted to share that with you today. What's included in the program? We have course content that sits on a gamification platform that our clients absolutely love. It makes it really fun. Everything is in short micro doses that you can work on in your own time and then apply it to what we call an implementation blueprint that applies it to your business. We have group coaching that's 2 hours once a week, a private Facebook community, and really importantly, We are offering one-on-one coaching with Linda and or me once a week for 3 months, and lifetime access to 10 additional women. This is how we have it set up this year with our current clients, but 10 additional women for the end of this year. So if you are interested in all in doing this, this is actually a great value, because lifetime access, we're going to be moving that to a subscription service. And the reason why lifetime access is important is because none of this is static. You have to be constantly revisiting your pricing, for example, or your messaging. Also, the one-on-one coaching has been proven invaluable for that first pillar. That is so important to get right. So we've got 10 slots. If you're interested, please, Linda's going to put a Calendly link in the chat. Please set up an appointment. And let's chat and see if this is a good fit or not. Now, I will tell you that some of the things that we hear is I'm not ready. So things like I need to get my house in order first. I need to do my website. No, you don't need to do any of that. In fact, that should not don't start fooling around, right? Until you've got this very deliberate step-by-step process to follow that will ensure that you have the strongest foundation possible. I can't afford it. So we could hear that a lot, and maybe that's true, but also I would wonder if that's a mindset issue, particularly if that's popping into your head before you know what the investment is. I may not be qualified. It's true. This may not be the right fit for you at the moment, but have the conversation, because it might be a good fit for you down the road, or there may be some other things that we can suggest for you. It sounds like a lot of work. Yeah, it is. It's a lot of work, but it is very focused, deliberate work that has a huge return on investment. So I think that, if you're interested, let's chat about it. And then finally, I have to check with my partner or spouse. And I get that because I often did that with my husband. But at the end of the day, I was the CEO of my business and made the investment decisions. So I leave you with that. We would love to connect with you. We would love to continue the conversation with you. And right now I am going to offer, we've got 3 minutes left. But I am going to offer that if anybody has any questions on the hour, right, any of the content that we reviewed or our program, we'd love to stay on and talk to you about it. I'm going to stop sharing.